You star as Emma, who's a peculiar child, although not much of a child anymore, right?
Yeah, well, 2,000-year-old child, essentially.
So tell us a little bit more about her and about the backstory that you made up in your head or that was in the book.
Good question. Because my character was obviously different in the book from the film. I had a bit of a tough job where I had to literally create an entirely new character. I didn't have that book as a Bible to sort of read up on. So I did my research into the technicalities of it, like what a loop is and how peculiarity came into existence and that kind of stuff. But I actually tried not to read the book until I felt like I had a stronger sense of who Emma was. Because in my head, they're two completely different characters that you'd play, and obviously their peculiarities just bleed into their personalities. So I'm very easily influenced by what I see and what I hear and what I read. So I really wanted to find my Emma first before I read the book. So then 2 weeks into filming, I felt like I had it. Read the book, I finished all 3 of them in a week. They're such page turners, I couldn't believe it. And now I'm reading Tales of the Peculiar, which has just come out, so that's nice. Really good as well.
Well, it's quite interesting to explore the themes of peculiarity, because one can arguably say that everybody's a bit peculiar.
Yeah, for sure.
So what would you say was your peculiarity when you were growing up?
I mean, oh God, I have so many to pick from. I have a weird body, like I can do weird things. I can like bend things, I can dislocate shoulders and click everything, and I can like do weird things with my eye, raise an eyebrow. So I guess it was like pulling funny faces or like freaking my mum out, like contorting into a shape. Yeah.
Or acting as someone else. That could be
that's
described as a peculiarity.
Chameleon. There we go.
Exactly. Here we go for other interviews. Exactly, because I'm sure they're going to ask you that question all through the day. She's a little bit ahead of her time. She's very wise, so she kind of expects what's to come. It's difficult to surprise her.
Well, exactly. Literally living the same day over and over and over. I mean, she knows when the squirrel's going to fall. She's got it down. But in a way, there's that sort of creates, I think, like a safety net in a way. And what's lovely in this film is that it's symbolic. These strange people with these peculiarities sort of hide away in this loop. They protect themselves because they feel vulnerable, and they're not ashamed of it, but they are weary of how other people will perceive them. And then they use this safety net to protect them. And then when things go wrong, they literally have to jump out of their comfort zone and use what is often perceived as a negative thing, but they learn it's actually a positive thing and actually helps them, And I think, it's super symbolic and it's really relevant to growing up. It's a really good movie for teens to watch, I think.
Absolutely. Use what is perceived as a weakness as actually a strength.
It's actually a strength. Yeah. So you should nourish that.
Absolutely. Well, the castle's real. What else was? Because it's difficult to see when it's so well done visually. Yeah. It's difficult to see what was real, what was not.
It's a good question. And I have to say, what I loved about Tim, and I wasn't expecting, was that it's pretty much a 50-50 between real life props and green screens and special effects and CGI and stuff. So it'd be hard to spot actually which one it is. So like, let's use the carrot for example. There was a giant carrot that was real, big polystyrene carrot, and then the growing was all CGI'd. But then when she pulled it out, she has to use her strength, and obviously it's light as a feather. She could just throw it around. So there's a stunt guy on the other side that you can't see, like pulling it so that she actually looks like she's really using her strength to pull it out. So yeah, it's like little things like that which when then bled together actually look fantastic and magical.
Is it the kind of film where you really feel like a community as a cast because you spend so much time together?
I mean, I love them like they are my own siblings. I think we really are now a big peculiar family, and that thing also spreads into the fan base as well. Like, I remember a few months ago there was sort of like a trend going on with the peculiar fans where if ever somebody needed someone to talk to or they were feeling a bit down or whatever, they'd sort of use the hashtag Stay Peculiar and find each other in the fandom and actually just make friends. And I thought that was so lovely, and that really it shows what it encompasses the moral of the whole movie, doesn't it?
Do you follow that? What happens on social media, the expectations of the fans, especially, when a book is quite popular?
It's a good question. I've not been asked that. I guess, I've not really thought about it, but I guess I definitely do. I love the fan base for this movie. I absolutely love it. I mean, the die-hard book fans are then obviously gone into the movie fans, and then we've just grown and grown and grown. And I think that it's so lovely to see how this book and how this movie has affected people and how it has helped them overcome any fears that they might have about their own peculiarities or whatever. And it really does change people's life and their perspective. I think that's amazing.
I always thought that if I had to choose someone's brain to pick from in terms of imagination, it would be Tim Burton. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big burden in a way. It's a gift and a burden, because he's like, I've got all this creativity, what do I do with it? I almost I always compare him to a mad scientist, where he uses all these lotions and potions and bits and bobs, and he stirs it in a cauldron and he creates this amazing movie. I mean, I don't know how he does it. He's just such a genius, and he's such a visual guy, and it really, every little thing makes a difference. And you see, I love the way he works as well. Like, he's got all this kinetic energy, and he's got so much energy, and he uses his hands all the time, and he paces, and he's just so excited, he's got so much passion and enthusiasm, and you see the cogs turning in his brain, and when he's got it, you almost see the light bulb go ding, and you see his eyes light up, and you're like, okay, we're ready to go, ready to shoot. And he just cares so much about every project that he does. He pours his heart and his soul into it. I love the way he works.
Is it infectious in terms of acting? Do you feel more creative yourself? Does he direct very thoroughly, or does he let you just do it by yourself as well?
He does inspire you, and that energy is just contagious. Everyone on the set wants to do a good job, and they want to come in and be like, okay, ready to go, like tons of energy, especially with all the kids there. And I think I learned a lot from working with Tim, but one of those things was that it's good to trust yourself. Working with him really felt like a collaboration. He wants to know what you think of this line, and are you okay to say that? Would Emma Bloom say that? And he really values your opinion. If you say, I don't know, this word feels clunky, I don't think Emma would say this line, he's like, oh great, I'm glad you said that, I was thinking the same thing, let's change it, what do you want to say? And for an actor, that's like, dreamy. Okay, I have an opinion, my opinion's valid, and I love that. I love that it really does feel like everyone's working on this thing, and I think it comes across in the movie that it almost feels like an ensemble piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And finally, does she have most of the stunts? Because you kind of fly and dive and everything, so you're kind of the one that gets shaken and stirred the most.
I guess a little bit. I mean, Enoch gets shaken and stirred the most, I think. You know what I mean? But it was quite physically demanding, that's for sure. But I actually really enjoyed it, and I think I never really did exercise before this, and since then I've been getting into a bit of yoga, getting into exercise, because that heavy light thing, and obviously being in the air and having to use those core muscles to actually look like you're floating and stuff. It was probably the most physically demanding job I've had, but I loved every minute of it. It was a new experience.